We are getting some more takes on this 2022 NFL Draft. Lions sitting at number 2 overall, and I'm bringing in Austin Gayle, the lead director of content for Pro Football Focus. Austin, I have seen a lot of your clips. We have scrubbed your Twitter page. I know what your dream scenario for that number 2 overall pick for the Lions is, and it's defensive end Aiden Hutchinson coming here to Detroit, staying home. But you've also got a podcast series with him to plug. So please break down why that is your dream scenario for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, Aiden Hutchinson, the Michigan defensive end, highest graded player in all of college football last year, I think is a fantastic scenario for a Detroit Lions team that obviously doesn't need offensive tackle, right? With Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell, they don't have to look at either of the blue chip offensive tackle prospects in this class. Ike Ekwonu of NC State, Evan Neal, Alabama. You could even throw Charles Cross of Mississippi State into that conversation. So in my opinion, at number 2 overall, if they don't trade back, they're locking into either a quarterback, that could be Malik Willis of Liberty, or the top edge defender available. Now, that could be Aiden Hutchinson if the Jacksonville Jaguars do pass on him. That could be Trayvon Walker of Georgia. That could be Kayvon Thibodeau of Oregon. But I do think that the dream scenario for the Detroit Lions is keeping the guy in state, right? Keeping Aiden Hutchinson, who was born in Michigan, born in Dearborn, Michigan, played for Divine Child High School, and is really the heart and soul of that Michigan State for this past year. Pushed Michigan football forward, beat Ohio State after a 10+ year drought. He is a phenomenal human being, phenomenal player, an insane athlete with all the measurables you look for to be a premier player in the NFL. So I do think it's going to be a dream scenario if the Jacksonville Jaguars go another direction, and I think they sprint the card in.
A reaction to some of this draft news from Detroit Lions fan base is when Dan Campbell spoke to a very small group of us media last week. He said that number 2 overall pick has to be a day 1 starter. Lions fans were not too happy to learn that probably meant Malik Willis was not going to be there at number 2 overall for the Detroit Lions. With that in mind, why is it okay? Detroit Lions fans, they were not happy about that news, but why is it okay to be okay with that new revelation?
Yeah, I do think for Detroit Lions fans, right, it's this battle of adding legitimate talent as you continue to look at the future of the quarterback position, right? With Jared Goff, he's due $30 million this year, whether he plays it down or he plays all 17 games, right? And you think with Jared Goff, they know exactly what they have in Jared Goff, and it's a competent starter in this league, but potentially not the future of the franchise, right? They want to look at that next guy, potentially a Malik Willis, potentially Kenny Pickett of Pittsburgh, Sam Howell, UNC, a quarterback in this year's class. And I think the conversation is, if you feel Malik Willis is a top 5, top 10 caliber player in this class, a quarterback that you feel like you can build around, investing that number 2 overall pick, one that you hope you're not picking at in future years, right? Hope you're building off something, and the roster is so improved, and the team is so improved, and the coaching staff in their second year is not picking inside the top 5, top 10 moving forward. Leverage that opportunity you have now to start this pursuit for the quarterback of the future. Now, if you're not high on Malik Willis or any of the quarterbacks in this class, like a lot of evaluators are, I've talked to a handful of evaluators in the NFL that don't feel any of these guys would be ranked ahead the top 5 quarterbacks in last year's class. And if that's the case with the Detroit Lions, I think the choice is a lot simpler, right? Go get a high value position, edge defender, and the best one available.
Okay, you also mentioned Detroit Lions could potentially trade back with that number 2 overall pick. What is the best case scenario with that?
So, what hasn't been discussed a lot in this pre-draft process is the Houston Texans don't have their quarterback position solved either, right? Obviously, they're interested in building around or seeing what Davis Mills can do, the former 3rd-round pick out of Stanford. But you can't imagine that the front office is already willing to hitch their wagon to his development there in Houston. There could be a situation where Houston's looking at, say, a Malik Willis or a Kenny Pickett in this quarterback class. And if you're looking to get ahead of that group, get ahead of that unit, you could look to trade up with the Detroit Lions. And the Detroit Lions, because of the investment they have in Jared Goff and maybe their interest level in this quarterback class as a whole, they could look at as a trade down opportunity, gather more picks, and build out this roster, right? It's not a complete roster yet. They still need help in the receiving core. I think cornerback can improve. I think pass rusher obviously can improve. Linebacker, like they have a lot of, I won't call them holes, but areas of improvement on their roster to where trading back can honestly add you a lot of that. You already have the number 2 and number 32 overall pick. You add future first rounders, future second rounders to allow for a team to come up and get a quarterback. If you are off this quarterback class, I think turning that number 2 pick into more picks only makes more sense.
One mock draft that I saw from you, you did have Matt Corral, Ole Miss quarterback. He would be the 3rd Ole Miss quarterback to be taken in the 1st round. He would join the Mannings, Arch and Eli, with that nugget. You also had Desmond Ridder, also, who could be at 32 overall for the Detroit Lions. So if they decide not to take Malik Willis at number 2, that 32 spot is there still in the 1st round. What is the best case scenario for the Detroit Lions to take with that pick?
This is definitely the situation I prefer the most, right? I think I'm more on the side of grab a really good edge defender, like I said, whether that's, Aiden Hutchinson, if he's available, Kayvon Thibodeau, whoever it may be at 2. And then look, if you are looking to start your search for this quarterback of the future, leverage that number 32 overall pick on a quarterback that could be available. That could be Matt Corral, Ole Miss, Desmond Ridder, Cincinnati, Sam Howell, UNC. I think Pickett and Malik Willis are off the board by 32. And the reason you highlight that 32 overall pick is because all first-round picks in the NFL draft come with a fifth-year option baked into their rookie contract.
I don't want people to forget the Lions will be right back on the clock with that number 34 overall pick. So you still need some targets, whether or not Lions draft a quarterback for them to throw to. They picked up DJ Chark in the offseason, re-signed Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, but I know this offense is still looking for a really lengthy receiver who can make plays outside. So what is the best option at wide receiver that fits that mold and maybe goes number 34 rather overall to the Lions?
I think they're in a really good position to prioritize receiver at that pick. I think Christian Watson of North Dakota State could be available, which has the speed, the length, what they look for. He's still a very raw player, which you could look to develop in the NFL, but I still, regardless, he's a freaky athlete with really good length for the position. I also think there's other really good size at the receiver position at the top of day 2. George Pickens of Georgia, I think, is a vastly underrated player in this class. But I think my favorite, if I'm being honest, if he's available, maybe doesn't meet the size thresholds that Detroit is chasing, it's Sky Moore of Western Michigan. If he's available there at 34, I think he immediately comes in as one of the best separators on that. You have DJ Chark, the bigger bodied vertical threat. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown working the slot. And then you immediately have Sky Moore coming in as the X. And I think that would be a really complimentary receiving core with a really talented player. I see him as a Golden Tate clone, a guy that can make plays after the catch, shifty at the line of scrimmage, can create separation at the stem, really good hands, over 10-inch hands, 31-inch arms. He's a really talented player that Detroit at 34, I don't think that's too rich. I also think there's a chance he comes off the board in the first 32 picks.
Okay, I know Detroit Lions fans would appreciate that comparison. Okay, Austin, if Detroit Lions want to have a successful 2022 draft, what does it look like?
I think at number 2 overall, you cross your fingers and hope that Aiden Hutchinson's available. If not, you go with the next best thing. I think Kayvon Thibodeau at number 2 overall or Trayvon Walker at number 2 overall should be the selection. I lean Thibodeau over Walker, but it's Steelers' choice, right? There's a lot of really talented edge players in this draft class. So it's Hutchinson, Thibodeau, Walker at number 2. Don't think twice about it. Those are all 3 really talented, high ceiling type of players. Then at 32, if you're interested in the quarterback class, the dream scenario, it would be 32, Desmond Ridder is available. If Ridder is available at 32, that is such a worthwhile first-round investment for a Detroit Lions team that's obviously still looking for the future at the quarterback position. If Ridder isn't available, I'm not as high on Corral. I'm not as high on Howell, maybe in that 32 range. I think it's maybe more important to look at some of the other needs, right? Whether that's receiver to ensure you get that player before 34, or even going off-ball linebacker if Devin Lloyd and Nakobe Dean is there.